got another DIY in store for you guys today. There's a lot of videos about this online, so this ain't the only one. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna build ourselves a life-sized nutcracker, okay? So I'm gonna show you guys what I got, how we're gonna do this. How we gonna do this? All right, so let's start off here. I bought this red garbage can from Walmart yesterday. So this is going to be his torso, okay? We got a torso. I couldn't find a head. I was looking at the actual nutcrackers, and in fact, let me go grab one real quick. So as you can see, his body's round, but I don't mind it being square. I was gonna use a round cardboard tube that they have at Home Depot, but I'm a little weary of putting cardboard outside. I have to do a lot of work on that. So this garbage pail was already red, and I saw somebody else who used this. But their heads, I've seen people use these cardboard tubes basically that are used for cement, and I'll put a picture right here. So this is a cement forming tube, and I've seen a lot of people use these for the body of the nutcracker, but it would also be the body and the head in one piece. And I'll show you guys, this was actually the first video that I watched. I'll put a link in the description below to this video, but they use this, and it's just a lot more work. You would have to weatherproof it and go through all this stuff, painting it and everything like that. And it was basically the same price as the garbage pail that I bought, and the garbage pail's already painted. Maybe, you know, I would still have to find a head, but it would be a lot less work and a lot more trustworthy, because I just don't trust cardboard. And they look great, but since I don't feel like painting that much, trying to keep the painting down to a minimum here, I'm gonna try, you know, using this kind of square body here. Anyway, his head is kind of rounded, and so my son and I were looking around the yard yesterday, and we were trying to figure out what we were gonna use, and I came across this. This is my Halloween candy dish, which I disassembled, and I'll put it back together. Next year I'll just buy another one of these, but right now it's going to be used. So we're gonna have to spray paint this, you know, skin color. Okay, so we got his body, we got his head, and now the next step is going to be his hat. I got this plain white bucket from Walmart, actually. Cost $1 and change, okay? So it's coming together. You guys can see we got his head, his hat, and his body. Now, I'm gonna take you guys for a little walk. So if you ever looked at their hands of the nutcrackers, their hands are kind of like a little ball. So this is how we're going to solve that problem. I have these little clear Christmas balls. So we're just gonna take one of these, we're gonna put it in a PVC pipe, and we're going to make that his hand. We're gonna color it, obviously, flesh colored. Okay, so out here, I bought some PVC pipe, and no, I don't need this long. This is 10 foot. Just a side note here, PVC pipe is actually cheaper if you buy it in longer lengths, which I found out while I was shopping for it, but this was probably the most expensive part of the project. And side note, if you have a Chevy Traverse, yes, you could fit a 10-foot piece of PVC pipe. These are going to be his shoulders. These are going to be his arms. I got an elbow piece that's going to bend. Okay, so we're going to have to paint all of that red. And then these will be his legs. So half of this is going to be painted black, and the other half, I think I might keep white. And then the last but not least, I bought some spray paint. So I tried to match this garbage can as best I could, because I really don't want to have to paint it. So I bought the Colonial Red in satin finish. I don't want it to be glossy. I kind of want it to have a satiny finish. I also bought the Rust-Oleum Satin Protective Enamel in French beige. The other thing that we're going to need is some wood, which I'm going to use to kind of sturdy his legs. And then we're going to need like a flat base to screw these into, just so that they can hold up his legs, and then possibly his body. I'm going to see how that works. So we're going to have to cross that bridge when we get there. These were the cheapest pieces of wood I could find in Home Depot. They're made for outside, which is good. They're from the railing section, so they have this curved piece, but we could just cut that right off. So no big deal, but they're pressure treated for outdoors. Now I would suggest before you paint plastic to just give it a light sand. I just grabbed a large garbage bag just to use as a little drop cloth and some lawn staples just so it doesn't blow around. Okay, so I have to make a major note right here. I would suggest that if you live in a colder climate, do not spray paint outdoors and then bring your stuff indoors. I had major problems. If you can, try to spray paint indoors, obviously in a well ventilated area, but the cold really did affect the spray paint, as you guys are going to see, and I just wouldn't suggest it at all. Okay, so I started off by just cleaning this with some Sprayway glass cleaner, and then after I cleaned it thoroughly, I used 500 grit sandpaper and just gave it a light sanding all over the place. You really want to make sure that you sand this stuff really, really well. That's a step that I feel like a lot of people skip, but what the sanding does is, first of all, it kind of removes any coating that's on the plastic, but it also gives kind of little grooves and a place for the paint to adhere. I had a lot of trouble with the paint adhering to this particular piece. You guys are going to see that, so just stay tuned. And then I also did the same with the little plastic balls. I just sanded those, and the paint actually stuck really well to these. And then I started to spray paint the piece. Now, I'm not the best spray painter by any means. I will suggest that you hold the can a little far away. Again, it's a lot easier to do this indoors because you don't have to deal with any wind or anything like that. It's just a lot easier. If it's a nice day and it's warm, then yeah, I would totally suggest spray painting outside if you can. But I live in a cold climate and it just became a mess. As you can see, I was getting some drips and stuff here, so I was just kind of dabbing them off with a paper towel. Like I said, I'm not the best spray painter. My husband, he's really good at it. Me, not so much. But I just put on the first coat and then went back in maybe like, I don't know, 20 minutes or so later with a second coat. Spray paint dries relatively quick, so you could really coat it, you know, within 20 or so minutes. But again, I really highly suggest not doing this outdoors in the cold, and you guys will see why. So in order to paint the balls, because obviously they're going to roll around, I took some of this tacky stuff, and basically what I did was I rolled it up into a little ball. I put it at the end of this little dowel stick here that I'm holding, and then I stuck it on the inside of the ball, and I, you know, used gloves, and then I painted it while I held it up. So while I waited for the paint to dry, I went outside and I took the garbage pail so that I could measure the arms and see how long those were going to be so I could cut them. So I just went and I grabbed a Sharpie marker and I made a little mark where I wanted them to end, which was at the bottom of the garbage pail. So I pretty much made the arms the same length as the garbage pail. Now, being married to a steam fitter, I have many ways that I could cut pipes here at this house. And one of them is this pipe cutter, which wasn't fitting, so which I had to figure out. So I decided that I was going to then switch over to a hacksaw. You could use many various different types of power tools or power saws, but I was a little scared, so I just used this hacksaw, and it was pretty easy to cut through. So once I got the arms cut and everything, I was ready to spray paint them. The first thing I did was sanded them again with the 500 grit sandpaper, and I made this kind of makeshift little spray paint area in my garage just using a cardboard box and this metal stand that I had. You don't want the poles to be down because obviously they'll roll around. And here I'm just showing you guys how close the color match was. Once it really dried, it looked even better. And so I also was ready to then put the second coat down on the head, and I realized I had missed a little spot down there at the bottom. Now, I accidentally left this out overnight, and I believe the condensation is really what messed this up, and you guys are going to see that in a second here. I think from bringing it out from the cold into the warm, my garage is heated. We have a little heater in there, a portable heater that hangs from the ceiling. So I think the condensation kind of messed the paint up and it wasn't fully cured, although I had let it sit overnight before I put the second coat on. All right, I had a little bit of a catastrophe, and I just want to show you guys this because these are the things that happen sometimes. So when I started painting, you see that little crackling, bubbling area? For some reason, all the areas I painted in started to do that. And then I tried wiping it off and it made all these little crumbs. The front of the face isn't so bad, so I'm not too concerned about it. You know, it got a little bit of it. You see, it happened over here, but just not as bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry completely, and I'm going to sand, you know, this down and redo this part. So the back I'm not really too concerned about this part because it's going to be covered with hair anyway. Just as long as I have one side that looks decent, that's all I really need. But still, I would like to, you know, I'm going to have to fix this area right here and just kind of sand that down. I'm going to let that dry before I even start working on it. Okay, I felt it was really important to share that with you guys because, you know, you have these mishaps while you're doing these things. It just happens. But I was able to fix it, again, just by sanding it down. I let it dry, and then I just kind of spray painted over it. Luckily, I had the one, you know, part that was good, and I did, you know, fix it. So don't panic when these things happen. You know, everything is fixable. So once I got that fixed, the next step for me was to draw the face on. Now, I didn't film this part, so I'm just going to show you guys pictures of it while I was in the process of doing it. I first just kind of drew it on with a pencil. I copied one of the guys that I had. I have several nutcrackers, so I just did that. And then I used just regular, you know, store-bought craft acrylic paint, like the ones that they have at Walmart or Michael's. And so that's how I painted on the face. After I was done with the face, I sprayed it over with an acrylic sealer. Again, that's something that you could get from Michael's, or I'm not sure if they sell it at Walmart. They might, or Joann's or something. Now, I had originally had another nose planned out, which was basically me taking the little angled section of that wood that I showed in the beginning, and I was just going to use that as a nose, but I didn't really like the way it looked. And so what I did was I went to Michael's, and they sell this very thin piece of wood. It's probably about a 1/4 inch thick. I used a coping saw, which is used for doing trim. It's almost like a hacksaw, but the blade is a little thinner, and you're able to cut curves in woods. It's a hand saw, so, you know, it takes a little bit elbow grease, but I had to kind of use that so I could cut the curve, but also, as you can see right here as I'm holding it up, that it's flat and I needed it to be curved. So I actually sanded it down, and that's how I got the curve to kind of fit a little bit better. So once I sanded it, I spray painted it, and then I just attached it with a hot glue gun. Before I paint the legs and the bottom and everything, I really want to figure the structure out. How am I putting this guy together? So what I did was I cut the legs a little higher than I wanted them to be. They're about up to my waist. I know you guys can't see me right now, but I'm about 5'4", so the legs come up to my waist. And the reason I did that is I've seen people do this in several different ways. So these poles are basically going to go through the middle, and I'm going to have to just slice off this top piece like I did on the other one. Those will be screwed into the base. Then I got to kind of build something that's going to hold the garbage pail over it. Okay, so just to save time, I'm doing a little bit of a voiceover here just because it's easier. And I forgot to mention, my husband built the base. I bought a piece of 24 by 24 inch plywood, and my husband just basically nailed down 2x4s underneath it just to lift it up a few inches. And so here you guys see me trying to figure out where the garbage pail is going to end and where the legs are going to start. So I had to figure out how to build the structure here that was going to hold everything together. So I was just trying to get a basic idea of the height and everything and how I wanted things to sit. I also had to measure out the distance of where I wanted the legs to be on the platform. So I basically just measured everything out. I centered it, and then I screwed the legs in from the bottom. All right, so I had to stop videoing last night because it got dark. It started raining. My husband came home. He was trying to fix this truck. It was just madness. But I'm going to show you guys what I did. So what I did was I made a little pilot hole down there. And what a pilot hole is basically you take the drill and just kind of make a small hole to go through. It made it a lot easier for me to line this up. I used screws that were about, I don't know, I want to say 2 or 3 inches thick, just to, long, just to be a little extra. So these just basically slide right over this. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to get some acetone, and I'm going to try to clean off at least some of this lettering This should probably be covered by black paint, so I'm not too worried about that lettering. And but unfortunately on this one, they have a lot more lettering. So I just gotta try to clean some of that off just because I really don't feel like painting these white. All right, my porch has turned into a makeshift workshop over here, so don't mind the mess. So what I did here was I'm painting the legs right now. I still have to find something for feet. But for now, I'm just painting the legs. I'm gonna paint the platform as well. I'm just gonna wait for these legs to dry. I put tape around them, obviously, washed them down with acetone and sanded them. I watched another YouTuber who used house paint on the legs. Shout out to Isaac Alexander DIY. Please go check his channel out. Give him a subscription because he's awesome. He has some really great tutorials on there for Christmas stuff. He's got some cool Halloween stuff on there. Definitely go check out his channel. He really was helpful to me during this, not just by watching his videos, but also he answered me in his comment section, and I'm really thankful. So I'm praying that it will, work out. We'll see. But that's the legs, and then I'm gonna paint that. So what I did is I have vinyl because I was basically a sign maker for a good portion of my life, and I took some vinyl and I just now you could do this with the Cricut vinyl if you have a Cricut. I basically just cut out this little triangle and a strip, and I'll show you guys what I am going to do. I'm trying not to buy any more stuff for this project. So I had these knobs that I had bought years ago for a piece of furniture, and I ended up not liking them too much. So I think I might use these as the buttons. I have 6 of them, and then I'm gonna hang chains across. So I just have to drill some holes here. But before I do that, I need to really figure out how I'm gonna mount this on top of the legs. And after I did all that, I got the base painted, and now I'm just gonna kind of explain to you guys what I did because it's hard to film everything. Okay, so it's the next day now, and just to catch you guys up a little bit on what's going on here, I'm hanging the knobs on right now for the arm. Basically what I did was I attached these things, but for some reason they weren't deep enough, and I had to kind of make my own little keyhole inside there. So that's how I'm hanging the arm on. As you saw, the one arm I'm gonna have to stabilize. I wish I made it a little bit lower, but I really kind of had no choice with the shoulders being there. So that's how that's gonna hang on. I just have to paint that little spacer piece there. I actually didn't end up using the spacers and just put the arm straight on the body. So here's what's going on. Down here, there's a piece of wood going across, which is holding the arms, the screws. They're basically holding it in there. And then I took these 2 pieces of wood basically to hold down this. So to kind of stop it, basically. So what I'm gonna do is screw this or nail it into this piece, these pieces, and then it's just gonna kind of rest on there. Basically, I'll be able to take this apart in 2 pieces if I have to. So basically it's gonna be a table, and his body is going to sit on this table. So and those 2 pieces of wood that you saw on the side, it's gonna stop it. Okay, you guys, so it is time for the final reveal. So this is my life-size DIY nutcracker. Sorry, the sun is hitting him right now, so it's a little shadowy. So he's completed, finally. Took me at least a month to build this guy, just with all the finding parts, the paper, and I'm sorry if you guys could hear the leaf blower in the background. My neighbor is blowing off their lawn. Our elves found our way out here, so we got 3 elves. This is Barzell. He's New York Islanders elf. And then we got this little guy here, and we got our regular elf who sustained some injuries this Christmas. So anyway, let's talk about how I finished this up. This was probably one of the biggest Christmas projects I've done thus far, I should say. So I got lazy at the end. So basically what I did with this is just a regular white 5-gallon bucket that you could get. I got mine from Walmart. You could get it from Home Depot. You don't have to use a white bucket. I had all intentions of painting this bucket with black, but I was just over painting. To be honest with you guys, I did spray paint the arms, and the legs I actually used a black Valspar lacquer, okay, paint. I'm not sure where I got that from or what I originally used it for, but I'm really happy with the way that it's sticking, the way that it looks. You could definitely see the brush strokes a little bit more, but I'm happy with the outcome. I think it's gonna hold up a lot better. I mean, you can't really scratch this off, which I like. The spray paint, I feel like, is a lot more delicate and doesn't hold up as well. I prepped the same way. The only difference with the legs was that I really cleaned them off with the acetone, which opens up the PVC and kind of makes it a little bit more porous. So, you know, that could be playing a role too. So anyway, back to the hat. I really didn't want to paint again, although I was going to paint it black and use the black lacquer paint. I just really didn't feel like doing it, waiting for it to dry. It's just such a pain. So I had this pillow sham that I ordered I have actually an extra one because I ordered the same bed set twice because I loved it so much. And so all I did really was I sprayed it with a adhesive spray, and I just kind of rolled it around. And I don't know if you guys are going to really be able to see the top, but on the top I just kind of stapled it, and then I squished it down as best I could. If you stand really far back, you could kind of see some of it standing up. But if we go in the back here, you can see the seam right there. So, but I didn't really care too much about that since I knew he was going to be standing up against this wall and it wasn't going to be visible to anybody. So, all right, so let's talk about the other details that I put on. So I got the trim from Joann's Fabric. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm really congested. I have a little bit of cold here. So yeah, we got this trim from Joann's Fabric. It was cheap. One of the cheaper ones that they had that I liked. And I just basically hot glued that around. And then I bought this ribbon, I believe I might have got this from Joann's as well. And as I showed you guys on the legs, I used the same one. And I kind of like the metallic look. So I put that down there. These are just Christmas balls, and I feel like the spray paint out of anything held really well to these. I sanded them down really well, so that could be part of the reason. We drilled a hole through here, these Christmas balls. So we drilled on one side, then drilled on the other side, and I stuck the lollipop through there. I just wanted it to be something light because I've seen a lot of people do a lot of weird things to mount the hands on, and I'm not really sure why. I've seen people mount like a string up here and then string it down. I just glued it in with hot glue, and then I kind of like as you would with if you're doing like a bathtub with the with like caulk, I kind of went around and just sealed it so no water would get in there. Same thing as just put a little dot of glue in there, and if you're not looking close, I mean there's little imperfections everywhere. It's just, that's everything you do in life, right? Yeah, so I just wanted something lightweight to hold, for him to hold. So I had this lollipop from last year that I think I got from Michael's, and so I used that. Let's talk about the details on here. So as you guys can see, I used a garbage pail for his body, and I used duct tape to make the belt. I was going to use an actual belt at one point in time, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. So I used the duct tape, and then I cut out a square of silver vinyl. Now it got a little wrinkled today because of the sun, and this is what happens with vinyl, so it's something to keep in mind. Vinyl does contract and expand, and so that's why there's different types of vinyl for outdoors and indoors, and there's permanent vinyl, and there's temporary vinyl, or removable vinyl as they call it. So what I did, just because stickers don't stick so great to Rubbermaid products, I don't know if they have a coating on them, but if you've ever noticed that when you get a Rubbermaid product, you can peel the sticker off very easily. It doesn't do what some stickers do, which is like get that stuck, you know, and then you have to sit there scraping it. So what I did was when I cut the strip of vinyl down here, and I cut a little triangle out by hand. All this is cut by hand. I didn't use my Cricut because I was being lazy. Anyway, I took Mod Podge and I just sealed down the edges, and it looks like it's actually working. I didn't do the edges of the duct tape, which I think I might do, because this morning when I came out, I noticed it was peeling, just again because of the temperature fluctuation. Something to always keep in mind with vinyl and adhesives is that, you know, in the weather, things expand and contract. You know, the sun is warming it up, so it's stretching out a little bit, and so I'm gonna have to, you know, maybe just reseal this, because you see it has this little wrinkle in there now, which is gonna bother me. From far away you can't really see it, but it's not that big of a deal. Just again, I sealed it with the Mod Podge. I just put a thin layer on it. It also mattified it, which I kind of like. And so it'll hopefully hold the edges down. You know, I did do vinyl for almost 20 years of my life, so, you know, I do know how it reacts in the sun and the weather and everything. So I just wanted to seal it down. Typically, you don't have to do that if you're on a very smooth surface, but Rubbermaid surfaces do have a little bit of grain in them. So vinyl, you know, just always something to keep in mind is that vinyl always sticks to smooth, non-porous surfaces the best. Okay, so moving on a lot of these that I did watch, a lot of tutorials I did watch, for some reason they didn't put feet, and I was looking at my little nutcracker over here. I looked at this guy's feet, which are dusty, and you know, I realized that they were just 2 little blocks of wood. So I just did the same thing. I just kind of followed suit. You know, he's supposed to look like he was built out of wood, technically. So, oh, let me talk about the boots over here. So when I painted this, all I did was I put a piece of tape around. I hate using painter's tape. It just never works out for me, but I kind of needed it in this case. And then, so some of it where it was a little messed up, I just took my, what do you call it? X-Acto knife, and I just kind of scraped it down. I knew I was going to be covering it with something, so I really wasn't that worried. Then I just hot glue gun on these gems, and the laces are a little bit of a mess. I started using this as a Sharpie marker, and I tried putting a little Mod Podge over this one, so just to seal it, but you see it's you could kind of see it. It's a little cloudy there, so I stopped. Anyway, so these two are kind of messed up because I was trying to do them by hand. And then I realized I took like a piece of like a package that I had and made a little kind of, I just kind of held it from here to here and used it as a straight edge, you know, and I just traced it. And so those came out a lot better than the top two here. But again, from far away, you know, nobody's going to be staring at each of these little imperfections. But overall, I'm really happy. So everything is attached here, and it could come apart, which is good because for storage reasons. The only thing that's not attached right now is the hat. But it seems fine up there. It's not really moving. It's been a little windy today, so I haven't noticed any movement, so I'm okay with that. But you know, I'm happy that it comes apart, the whole body lifts off, the arms come off. So when I go to store it, you know, for the winter, I could at least take it apart and store it, which is important when, you know, you live in a smaller house and you're kind of already taking up a lot of space because you have a lot of Christmas stuff. But overall, I'm really happy with the way it came out. You know, there's a few things I would maybe do to change it, but not much. I am really, really satisfied with the outcome here. And he's going to live under the porch every year in this little corner because I really don't want to put him out in the elements. And I think with the sun beating on it, you know, that's enough. The sun is probably one of the harshest things, especially on paints and stuff like that. So you know, it's going to fade and get messed up over time. So I just want to leave him under here where he's a little bit protected from the elements, you know, the rain and the snow, if we get any, and, you know, that sort of thing. But overall, I am super happy with the way he came out. I think he looks awesome. And if you guys like these types of videos from me, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time.